Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to the J2ICS Cup Series. Here we are at Phillip Island Circuit as we get ready for this sprint racers to make their way out on track. Always a guaranteed good time. As always, I'm your host, James East, bringing the action 1080p 60 frames a second on behalf of Team Goon Squad Broadcasting. And it looks like qualifying coming to a close, and it is time to get things started here today. Let's go ahead and run you through today's grid. Starting on pole, Squilliam, the number 6 machine. John Downey starting second. Simply Steve starts third. Black Bob Wallace starting fourth. AJ starting fifth. James McKinney starts sixth. Paper Bag starting seventh. Gareth McAllister, the world-famous Australian, starting eighth. Biker Pilot starting ninth. Garlic Dog starts 10th. Book starting 11th. DC will be starting 12th here today as we cycle it on back. Urko starting 13th. Eat My Dust starting 14th. And Beerton will round out the 15-car grid. Welcome one and all to the main event of the night. We have a very, very brief pause here. Island looks like it's going to be Squilliam with an early lead, but Simply Steve in hot pursuit in the 023 machine. Cycle a little bit further back. Paper Bag in the 420. Squarely in the mix, we go a little bit side by side. Simply Steve and AJ having their own intent battle for second here. Great races all across the track. Looks like Paper Bag is going to make the move on Black Bob Wallace. But look at that. There's AJ in the 45. No, AJ with a big off track. Looks like that's also going to be John Downey with an off-track excursion as well, right behind as they go careening into the grass. Garlic Dog also has his fair shares of mistakes. We go back up to third where Paper Bag in the 420 has made it 4 positions gained so far. But Black Bob Wallace in the 666 machine in very hot pursuit. Already in this 20-lap sprint, things are getting a little bit dicey. Simply Steve up into second in the 023, about 1 second back from race leader Squilliam. As let's go a little bit further back in the field. Biker Paw, the number 42, catching the draft of the 666 of Wallace. Nose to tail they go. I was very impressed with these drivers. See how much big moves we've had going on. But oh, we get another report. James McKinney and AJ with another off-track excursion here. Let's see. McKinney just now getting back onto the circuit. Let's take a look, see what happened to McKinney in the number 16. He's going to be down 8 spots so far, all the way back into 16th. Excuse me, 14th. Just pushes a little wide there, catches the kitty litter. A great drift, keeping it off the wall. Thankfully, it doesn't look like any damage there. As we check back in with Squilliam, the race leader, 1.2 seconds up over the rest of the field, not having any issues here today. He is putting the hammer down and absolutely checking out. About a second separating Squilliams and Simply Steve. Meanwhile, Steve also has about a 1 second gap on race leader, third place Paper Bag. Is Squilliam getting up to pace, clicks off another fastest lap of the race, but it looks like Steve's starting to close the gap here. As always, while we're getting things continuously ramped up, thank you to our fans, friends, and family showing up, supporting the drivers, supporting the league, as well as supporting the broadcast here at the J2ICS Cup Series. These SRA cars, a ton of fun to drive, very light, very flickable. I'm not sure if that's a word or not, but we're gonna go with it. And always lends itself to some really good racing. Looks like John Downey, the number 99, with his big off track, still down to 8 spots from where he started, but starting to catch back up to Eat My Dust, who had a qualifying penalty. Eat My Dust up 5 spots to the number 24. And man, Squilliam just keeps clicking off burners here, a 123.24. Now I'm going to be curious to see here if anybody can touch Squilliam, as he just keeps getting faster and faster. Now he will have to progressively worry a little bit about tire wear in this short 20-lap race, but right now, all the racing around that 9th, 10th, and 11th place spot. Garlic Dog in the 199, rolling back out of pit road, getting that thing hammered back into a semblance of a straight race car. But man, these three guys really going at it here. And still, now the gap's closing, less than 4/10 between each of these three drivers. Keep an eye out as well. AJ and the number 45 machine starting to close that gap as well. It seems like today kind of being dictated by little off-track excursions that put a lot of fast guys towards the back. And oh, speaking of, there goes Book. The 056 way off the circuit. Well, let's see what happened to him there. Looked a little bit unsettled, and then pushed way too wide. Unfortunately, it took 14 seconds for Book to get back out on track. And oh, we've got even more issues reported. We saw the smoke. McAllister, the world famous Aussie, goes for a ride in the 35. What just happened there? It seemed like a little bit, oh, just flicks the back end around, and around goes McAllister. Meanwhile, the replay machine's gonna stay queued up and running. Paper Bag in the 420 also has issues here at Phillip. Very hard on the brakes, a big lockup, and then just careens it around. I wonder if he got too much heat in those tires. Here's the battle for 7th, Eat My Dust. John Downey, the 24 versus the 99. Looks like Eat My Dust pulls a gap, as now AJ in the 45 closes it to Downey. And for those keeping track at home, Squilliam setting once again fastest lap of the race, getting down to a 123.14. And poor Book, the problems keep complicating for the 056. Another visit to the gravel trap here at Phillip Island. Let's see what happens to the 056 machine. Just misses the apex and tries to get a turn. No such luck. So not quite to the halfway mark of this opening event. 7 of 20 laps completed so far. As we check in on Squilliam, your race leader, clicking off laps, making it look easy in that number 6 with Backmarker Motorsports. Squilliams has pulled a 2.7 second gap on the rest of the field. Oh, and yet again, more problems. It looks like both James McKinney and Eat My Dust have issues. Eat My Dust pointed back in the right direction. We get the replay. Let's do the Eat My Dust replay first, and the number 24. And see what just happened. Then we'll check out what happened to James McKinney. So looks like flicks it in. Maybe a little bit of a lockup there in the back right of the number 24 machine. Sends it careening around. Thankfully, I don't know how they avoided contact there. It was so incredibly close. And now we're checking in on James McKinney to see what happened to the number 16. Looks like everybody's kind of missing the mark there. Either very wide or very, very tight, and then kind of getting just all set up and all sorts out of shape. And more problems. Urko finds himself getting things going. Urko, one of those drivers, I need to check. I believe Urko was the only driver that had to start from pit road. To get quick confirmation of that for the fans at home. Yes, it's only Urko that had to start from pit road. Gets it fired back up after the incident and tries to track back down Book. Meanwhile, John Downey AJ linked up nose to tail, battling for 7th, and Paper Bag has made a move on DC for a top 5. DC still up 6 spots from his original starting position. Paper Bag and the number 420 machine up 2 spots. But Squilliam right now trying to go for the hat trick. He qualified on pole. He's currently got the fastest lap of the race, and he also wants to lead this. He might even be able to make it 4 if he can lead every lap here at Phillip Island. Excuse me. Bit of a coughing break up here in the booth, but it looks like DC starting to put the pressure on Paper Bag as they are side by side. It's the 3 of DC, the 420 of Paper Bag. DC dips a wheel in the tire there. Has to be careful as they are back side by side. Looks like DC's gonna, yes, hold on to it. And Paper Bag and that 420 is gonna go down 1 spot. Following behind that number 3, we go on board with Paper Bag. What a cool shot in these SR8 machines. And oh, the draft, and is he going? Yes, Paper Bag is gone off track. Looks like he caught a draft from DC, came in way hotter than he expected. And man, it has been a night of solo incidents. Now it's going to be AJ trying to track down Downey in the battle for 6. The top 3 pretty spread out at this point. Squilliam 2.2 seconds up over Simply Steve. Steve about 6 seconds over Black Bob Wallace. Both Steve and Wallace up 1 position where they started from. Squilliam started in the top spot, continues to run there. Downey AJ still separated by, I was going to say a half second, and very quickly closed to about 3/10 there. As AJ found some momentum, wasn't quite able to get the momentum he looked for to make that happen. But I'm going to be curious to see. I think AJ might have something in the back pocket here. He's following along behind Downey. He's getting a lot of information, a lot of data behind that number 99 machine. They're very equal on pace, and these SR8s, very good in the draft. As you can see, AJ start to reel in Downey. Almost flat out in these machines. That explains the spinning incidents we've seen so far, as these guys are absolutely ripping here. Oh, AJ pushes a little bit wide there, has the lift to avoid blowing the corner. You can just see Paper Bag in the background, that 420 machine, trying to catch back up to this battle for 6. And that's going to be dependent. If Downey and AJ start going back and forth here, to slow down the pace, it'll allow Paper Bag to get right back up in there. But if they maybe work together, I get interrupted as McKinney takes a massive hit. What I was saying was, if Downey and AJ work together, kind of leapfrogging with the draft, they'll be able to pull away, maybe catch up to other drivers in the field. We take a replay. That's James McKinney taking a hard hit into the tire wall. Oh, just ahead of McKinney and Garlic, who are battling. Urko has a self-spin. He's very quickly about to have company in a 3-car battle for 11th. McKinney and Garlic Dog have caught up rather quickly there. McKinney's still about 2 seconds back from Urko. Urko able to maybe salvage a little bit from that one. 14 of the 15 drivers who entered this main event still out on track. 8 laps left to go. And it looks like Garlic has a big charge here against McKinney's number 16 machine. Backs out of it slightly after a big drive, and oh no, Garlic's got issues. Pushes a little bit too wide. I believe that's going to be turn 3. And now Book in the 056, a chance of redemption. He sees the smoke ahead. He knows there's an opportunity to strike and maybe score a few more points here. Book doing everything he can. Oh, but we got to change the camera. There's another battle out on track as Book with another off-track excursion. Looks like the battle for 6 starting to heat back up. Here comes AJ in the 45. Put a large amount of pressure on Downey. AJ looks to the outside line through 3. Not able to find a way around. Staying right. Oh, not too far tucked in behind Downey. Downey running a little bit more defensive guarded line. AJ looks for an opening. Looks like he's going to wait a little while here through one of the tighter portions of the raceway. Maybe try and force a mistake out of Downey. Oh, this is tight. AJ just tries to find an opening that does not yet exist. Trying to get around Downey here. The gap spreads back to about 4/10, but I don't think Downey's going to be able to break away from AJ. The draft just seems absolutely massive as they charge down the start-finish line. Your race leader, Squilliam, still holds on to it with a 3.6 second margin. Simply Steve sits in second, and Black Bob Wallace sitting in third. Man, AJ just looking for any opening he can try and find and just not having any luck. Let's go on board the front of that 45 machine. Interesting to see the different brake markers here as well. Looks like AJ seems pretty content just to take it easy. But less than just about a tenth separating the two. AJ charges down the hill. I can't believe how well Downey's been able to defend here. Just taking it nice and easy and not succumbing to the pressure. So well done there. And these guys have not been separated by more than 4/10 most of the lap prior. So absolutely putting in some work here at the island. Oh, here we go. AJ tries to look to the outside line, tries a high-low move. Downey very wisely guards the inside line, but does AJ have the momentum here? No, Downey cuts off the nose of that 45. I think AJ is getting a little bit impatient as he is all over the rear gearbox. The checkered flag is out. The time limit has been hit. Squilliam is going to bring home the win. Simply Steve brings home a second. And it looks like Black Bob Wallace is going to get the third here. Yes, he is. But let's head back to that battle for 6. It's been absolutely riveting. Is AJ going to be able to pull off a draft pass here at the start-finish line? It's going to be close. He hops out of line. Who's it going to be at the line? It is going to be Downey, able to defend there. Less than a tenth of a second between those two drivers. Very well done. And what a great race to start things off here tonight. We're going to get our top 3 drivers up here to victory lane, have a quick talk, and then get them ready to go right back out. Looks like we've got Squilliam, and we're waiting on Simply Steve and Black Bob Wallace. Looks like we've got Steve. As we just waiting on Wallace and the 666 machine to make his way up here to victory lane. We'll give him a couple more moments here. To try and get Wallace up into the booth, otherwise we're going to have to move on. I think, all right, there we go. Up first, we're going to have Bob Wallace join us in the 666 machine. Bob, welcome up, and seemed like it was pretty smooth sailing for you in third out there today.
Yeah, consistency is key, and that's all I could do. Those two guys in front of me just had too much pace.
Now, Bob, we saw a ton of self-inflicted incidents out there. You think that was lack of track knowledge? Was it a loose car? What do you think attributed to those mistakes we saw?
I think on lap one, it was a little bit of cold tires. The rest of the time, it's just pushing a little too hard. This track bites pretty hard if you make mistakes.
Well, it seemed like he was doing pretty well for you, just clicking off laps, making it look easy. And we know you've got another race coming up. But before we let you go, for the viewers watching on YouTube and Facebook, who do you want to give a shout out to that helped make this third place finish possible for you?
Obviously the ZFG team, Bro Sidon out there, and everybody in the background. And obviously to you guys for putting this on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, couldn't do it without you guys. And Bob, best of luck in the following race, my friend.
Appreciate it.
That was Bob Wallace bringing it home a third. Up next, we've got Mr. Simply Steve joining us with a great second finish. Steve, what was it like from your point of view out there, my friend?
I mean, just kind of got away well and then tried to take a little bit off of Squilliam and couldn't quite do it. Couldn't take a lot of time off him. The man's very quick. So just kind of settled in, did some laps. P2's pretty good. Squilliam's wicked fast. So, try to keep it realistic and keep it on track.
Now, what are the expectations for the follow-up race? Does the game plan change a little bit after this result in second place finish?
I think in the feature, the tire wear is going to be a big factor, and a lot of people are going to go off because I don't think a lot of people have done a full stint of fuel. So I think it's just keeping the tires together long enough and keeping it on track. We'll see where that gets me.
Well, it's going to be exciting to watch. I know the fans are pumped at home. Steve, who do you want to give a shout out to that helped you bring home a second in that 023 machine?
I want to give a shout out to my teammate, Lucas, for always arriving and driving for these races. And
Awesome.
Any friends or family watching?
Awesome. Steve, I appreciate you as always, man, and best of luck in the feature.
Thank you so much.
That was Simply Steve bringing it home in second. But up next, the man, the myth, the legend, Squilliam, bringing it home in the top spot. Welcome back, my friend. Good to have you.
Yeah, man, it's good to be here as always.
So tell me about that race. Seems like, that was pretty much as good as it gets. You qualified on pole. You led every lap. Fastest lap of the race. What more can you ask for?
Yeah, no, definitely. I got a super good launch off the line, which is usually they're pretty awful if you watch any of the other races. And yeah, I just kind of pulled the gap, and I got to that point where I had a 3 or 4 second gap to Steve, and there was really no point in me pushing, so I just kind of chilled out the rest of the way, made sure the tires were feeling good because the rears do kind of feel sketchy deeper into the run, But yeah, good race, very comfortable. So I'm very happy with that.
Now, I'm trying to pull up the points for the sprint race, and maybe I'm doing this wrong on the... Yeah, maybe I'm doing this wrong, but it shows Beaver still in second. What's the plan to try... Beaver leading the points. What's the plans to try and take away from that points gap he has? I know he is off tonight, but is there a plan, or is it just consistency?
Yeah, man, I think with only 2 more rounds after this round, I don't see myself getting into that first spot unless he just has some truly awful races the next 2 races, which, knowing Beaver, I doubt. So at this point, I think I'm kind of getting into securing that second position and everything. Beaver's just been beating me all season, man, and big props to him for that, because he's been making me work my butt off every race to even be close to him. So yeah, it's kind of just getting into that mode where I'm just kind of trying to stick into the second place and secure that. Obviously trying to beat him would be super great, but the points just don't work out. The math isn't there on it.
Well, makes sense. Why I'm a broadcaster, not a mathematician or racer, my friend. But we know you got that feature event ready to get ready for, and we know some of the fans, such as Jared Cobb, are giving you a whole lot of love on the YouTube side of the broadcast. But who else you want to give a shout out to at home that helps make this win possible for you and the team?
Well, I got to shout out my boy Mike as well, because I know he's watching with Jared probably, and Savannah as well, Jared's girlfriend. So shout out to all 3 of them for hanging out and watching the races.
Awesome. Best of luck in the feature event, my friend, and always a great time talking to you.
Thanks, man.
That was Squilliam bringing home the win in the sprint. Don't go anywhere. We're going to have a brief intermission, and we will be right back with the action-packed feature of the evening. All right, race fans, we are back for the final feature event of the night, and it is going to be a good one. Starting in the top spot is Paper Bag. AJ starting second. John Downey starting third. DC starting fourth. Biker Pilot starting fifth. Black Bob Wallace starting sixth. Simply Steve starting seventh. Squilliam starting eighth. With that inverted top 8 grid, Eat My Dust starting 9th. Gareth McAllister starting 10th. Urko starting 11th. James McKinney starting 12th. Garlic Dog starting 13th. Book starting 14th. And Bear Tennessee maybe? If they make it out onto the grid, they're going to be starting 15th. Looks like Urko and Book have not made it to the grid. I'm wondering if Urko is going to be starting from pit road back to back. Not quite sure what the rules are on that one. But Paper Bag is in the hot seat. Yes, Urko's starting from pit road. Bear will not make it onto the grid. The lights are off, and away we go. The final time here at Phillip Island. 40 laps or 40 minutes, but already James McKinney finds himself off track in a very precarious spot. We're going to save that replay for later, as right now at the front of the field, way too busy, as I thought I just saw DC or Biker Pilot getting jostled around a little bit there. As they are side by side for second, I believe that's fifth as well. Or we've got a few drivers side by side. Up front, it's Paper Bag, DC, and Biker Pilot side by side in the battle for third. Oh, a very busy racetrack as we hint at some three-wide racing. Everybody has to be careful. Now, we did just have 20 minutes of racing in that sprint to kind of get everybody up to pace, getting a little bit more comfortable. And this is huge for Paper Bag. Out front has gained very quickly 3/4 of a second on the rest of the field. As, man, look at Squilliam right there in the fray in that number 6 machine. He's got to eat. Oh, and there's contact. Squilliam, I think that was Eat My Dust. Oh, and a huge pile up. Simply Steve, Eat My Dust, both involved in that one. Get the old replay fired up. Looks like Steve may have gotten to the back of Eat My Dust. No, it's Steve gets help from behind from Eat My Dust, and the field comes barreling in. And while we've got the replay skewed up, let's see what happened to James McKinney off the rip in the number 16 machine. A very poor start. And takes a creative track exit. AJ has an off-track excursion to number 45 machine. That's going to drop him back to 12th. Garlic Dog in the 199 came back to pit road in his own accord, able to get things at least limped down, but things are starting to tighten up inside the top three. It's Paper Bag, John Downey, DC, separated by about a second between those top three drivers. Squilliam definitely in the mix. He's about a second back from Downey, a second and a half back from Paper Bag. But as we saw in the opening race, this is definitely going to be a track and race of attrition to see who can make it till the end. DC looks to be in position to try and catch up and make something happen to Downey. But the field is really catching up to Paper Bag. The gap dwindling down to about 4/10 of a second. Biker Pilot, the number 42 Canadian. He's down pit road. Squilliam has just set the fastest lap of the race, a 1:23.74, and the field's starting to tighten up. The top three separated by less than 7/10 of a second. Oh, about a second separating the top four here. I'm expecting some big sins as we go on our J2ICS sponsored chopper cam. It's Paper Bag, John Downey, DC, Squilliam. Ooh, looked like maybe a little bit of a bobble there or a failed pass from DC. That's going to give Squilliam a little bit better of advantage to try and pick up a third place, but Squilliam's got to be patient. We're only 3 laps into this race. And you've got to put yourself in a good position to make it to the final lap. Paper Bag's getting another little bit of a breakaway as DC and Downey side by side. DC with a big lunge at the inside line. Looks like he's going to make it stick. Squilliam tries to follow through. Squilliam is going to make the pass complete. Takes over third. John Downey falls back to fourth. But Downey in the 99 keeping the pressure on Squilliam here. Now Squilliam again has the fastest lap of the race so far. I'm not sure if that's going to be a back-to-back repeat, as there's been a lot of battling here at the track. William on 124.11, so definitely off his pace, having to put the old elbows out and try and make some things happen. We go in the gearbox of your race leader, Paper Bag. And what a great shot of the Bong Life back number 3 machine of DC. This is what about 4/10 gap separates, looks like, ladies and gentlemen, between first and second. Focusing on Squilliam, the number 6. Squilly getting a lot of love from the fans. Lossio, I believe I pronounced that right, on the YouTube side of the broadcast, coming in strong, supporting their favorite driver. Oh, things are starting to really tighten up. Less than a quarter of a second separating the top 3 drivers. DC hops out of the draft, pulled alongside Paper Bag. And what could be the pass of the lead, but Squim just clicked off yet again. Another fastest lap of the race. A 1:23.2. DC makes the move for the lead, makes it clean. Paper Bag falls back to second, but keep an eye out. Squilliam is hungry for a race lead here. Oh, almost a little bit of contact between Squilliam and Paper Bag. Squilliam briefly taking over the second place spot. Paper Bag getting some love from Nicholas on the YouTube side of the broadcast. Paper Bag still very much in it here with a 420 as we're side by side for the race lead. Squilliam pulls out on top here. Oh, a little bit of a lockup. I couldn't tell if that was from DC or maybe Paper Bag, but now John Downey also back in the fray. Now DC, Paper Bag, and Downey, I would say, need to work together here slightly, because if they let Squilliam keep that clean air up front running uncontested, I would not be surprised to see that number 6 machine check out once more. Paper Bag and John Downey have no plans of working together as they're still side-by-side racing. That is very quickly given about a 9/10 gap to DC and that number 3 machine as we make our way out onto the start-finish line. Oh, looks like a little bit of a tussle breaking out in the spectator area. Fans arguing who's going to be the best. Is it going to be Squilliam? Is it going to be Paper Bag? I think Paper Bag, though, just spending a whole lot of time battling with Downey, which is slowing the pace down. Meanwhile, Squilliam and DC still kind of running nose to tail, separated by about a quarter of a second, as now Paper Bag makes a move back for third against Downey. But look, that's allowing Black Bob Wallace, Gareth McAllister running 5th and 6th to close the gap to these two drivers battling for the final podium spot. Oh no, John Downey goes for a wild ride, losing the back end. He's gonna lose spots to Wallace, to McAllister, to Urko, to Downey, excuse me, to Book. What happened to Downey there? Does he miss the mark? Seemed like he almost lifted a little bit there. Lost the back end, maybe lost some of the downforce, so unfortunately, Downey's going to have a very big uphill battle at this point. We check back in on race leader Squilliam, sporting the number 6. DC's been doing a good job kind of matching the pace here, only 6/10 behind. In the opening sprint race, once Squilliam was able to get that clean air, he was absolutely out of there. Good to see Nicholas Trollman join us in the spectator area. DC still hanging around that 6th, 7th, 10th mark back from race leader Squilliam. But maybe, and most importantly, they have put about a 3.5 second advantage over on third place driver Paper Bag in the 420. looks like we've got another battle shaping up as well. Gareth McAllister in the draft of Black Bob Wallace's 666 machine. You can also see Paper Bag not too far ahead as well, so I think Paper Bag may be having a little bit of a surprise as we're looking at a 3-car battle for third. I'll be curious to see here if Paper Bag maybe wicks it up a little bit to try and put the rest of the drivers behind him. Gonna be close. Squilliam up front, starting to gain a bit of a bigger gap. Puts about a second on DC. I think right now all eyes are on the battle for third between Paper Bag, Wallace, and McAllister. As the gap slowly closing between all three, especially on the start-finish line straight. Each driver is able to gain just about a 10th on each other. Wallace is going to make it about 2/10 gained on Paper Bag, charging into turn 1, flicking it into the left-hander of turn 2. And McAllister really big grounds on Wallace there. Pulls that gap down to about 3/10. McAllister putting the power down, the number 35 machine. Still holding on to about a 4/10 disadvantage behind Wallace. As we get a report, James McKinney with another off-track moment. Such a cool camera angle in these machines. One of the most fun cars you can drive on the circuit. Unfortunately, we get a report AJ has another off-track excursion, but we dare not pan the camera away from this battle for third. Seems like the start-finish line is where things really tighten up amongst these drivers, and over the remaining duration of the lap is where drivers kind of get a little bit more leeway, a chance to breathe. But I think this time McAllister is close enough in behind Wallace, and the same can be said for Wallace and Paper Bag. Less than 2/10 separating each of these drivers. What is going to be the strategy call here? If McAllister puts the pressure on Wallace, that's going to give an advantage back to Paper Bag. Bag just wants to hammer down and put these other two drivers behind so he can hold on to third. Squilliam and DC, first and second, they've checked out. They're in a different zip code at this point. I'm not sure what the emojis mean in our spectator area, and I'm too afraid to ask. As we check back in on Squilliam, clicking off laps, making it look easy. Now he has backed off the pace slightly. Not sure if that's due to tire management perhaps, or just taking it easy, knowing he's got just shy of a 2-second advantage over DC. Last time by, Squilliam on 1:23.64 was 4/10 faster than that second place driver of DC. Looks like AJ's trying to regain some positions. Gains the 10th place spot from Eat My Dust. Simply Steve in the 023 also had an off track, still 6.5 seconds ahead of AJ. But man, AJ is closing that gap very, very quickly to the 9th place driver. "14 of 14 drivers who made it out on the track, still out there charging." As we're checking in on DC, that number 3 Canadian machine. He's about 2.1 back from Scully and about 4.1 ahead of Paper Bag. And Bag really hasn't got much of a break here. As we're focused in on Black Bob Wallace, you can see Paper Bag just ahead. McAllister's fallen back a little bit slightly. He's about 7/10 back from the 666 machine. As there's a good angle showing how close those 3 drivers for 3rd are in. 8 laps until we are at the halfway mark. And since Trollman and a few experienced drivers in the spectator area, let us know. I mean, first of all, are we going to see a fuel stop from these drivers? As I do not have the privilege of calling many races here at the Just Two Idiots Cup Series Sprint Series every Wednesday night, every other Wednesday night, I should say, alternating schedules between their endurance series. But as a broadcaster driver myself, I'm curious to see what the strategies are. As a big move from Simply Steve moves up into 8th. And Simply Steve trying to battle back up to that 7th place spot where he started, but Book staying right there with him. But we get confirmation from some of the other drivers as well as the spectators. We are expecting a fuel stop. So I would imagine that's going to be, fuel window's going to open up around lap 20. But what just happened? Paper Bag takes a tow back to pit road. What happened to the 420 machine who was running so extremely strong here? Oh, gets a little bit of high-speed wobble, absolutely drills the tire barrier, and says, you know what, I'm not driving this thing all the way around. I'll just take the tow. So that's going to put Black Bob Wallace back up into 3rd in the 666. And McAllister, a newcomer to this series in the 35, now suddenly finds himself in a possible podium contention. Well, we've got more problems. Simply Steve, and I believe, well, really everybody here, I believe. AJ, Eat My Dust, and Simply Steve. I think we need to pull up a different angle. I think that was a series of botched pit entries. Let's see what happened. Maybe taking the opportunity, saying, all right, I'm already off track. Oh, very aggressive. Okay, so it's drivers absolutely, lawn darting in the case of AJ, but absolutely butchering the pit entry. I mean, AJ, Simply Steve, Eat My Dust. It looked like they maybe didn't have much practice coming down pit road. Not gonna lie, a little bit embarrassing for the field there. And they just know they were caught on the broadcast for that. So that one's going to sting a little bit worse for these guys. And what that's also going to do is force drivers to use a fast repair that they maybe weren't expecting to have to use here when they've been running so clean. Urko coming down pit road, number 33, your top 5, still opting to stretch it out a little while longer. And the problems continue now. DC with a big moment. That puts Squilliam as still your race leader, but Black Bob Wallace, Gareth McAllister, now up in the podium contention. Let's see what happened to DC. Just loops it. Now watch this. We kind of caught the tail end of it. Drivers taking evasive maneuvers. Oh, this is going to be a long night. Well, we thought it was going to be a surefire race for several drivers. Suddenly, they're going to be way down the standings. As we were kind of talking about Wallace and McAllister being gifted a podium spot, now suddenly find themselves what could be the battle for second. Now, I'm also curious as well, some of the drivers who are coming down pit road. Well, I guess the other thing is we did not get the full 20 laps in the sprint race, so we haven't seen just how long these drivers can run for. As here we go, the battle for second really starting to shape up between Wallace and McAllister. McAllister number 35, Wallace the 666. The top 5 out on track still have yet to come down pit road. We got Ricky Espino join us in the YouTube side of the broadcast. Always great seeing him. Oh, looks like Wallace going to take this opportunity to come down pit road. Will he be one of the first drivers? Yes, actually makes it across pit road after that very rough pit cycle we saw earlier. So McAllister will move up into second. DC back up into third. Camera focusing on Squilliam, your race leader. Won the sprint race currently. Checking out in the feature, 10 seconds ahead of McAllister. So how long is Squilliam going to go on fuel here? Biker Pilot and McKinney on pit road for their scheduled stops. Right now, only 4 drivers have yet to come down pit road. Gonna be interesting to see if maybe Squilliam has a bit of strategy on fuel, how he's gonna try and manage this race. As no, he comes down pit road. Now, we could possibly be looking at a 2-stop race for these drivers if Squilliam used everything he had in the old proverbial tank. McAllister's gonna stay out for another lap as we just heard somebody sliding around. That was Book in the 056. Looks like it's going to be another solo car incident, so McAllister's going to be the only driver staying out here. The Book just loses the back end. What a long slide before he eventually nosing it in. McAllister's going to get a credit with a lap led here at Phillip Island. Now, I've called an absolute ton of races featuring the world-famous Australian McAllister, but not many that I can recollect where we've seen his fuel strategies really become a factor. Normally, it's just been raw pace for the number 35. If he can make it to lap 20, he can technically make this a one-stop race. And Squilliam has problems. Squilliam has massive issues. The race leader has taken a tow back to pit road. The former race leader, I should say. There's the number 6 machine of Squilliam. What happened? He pulls off of pit road. Let's get the replay queued up. It seemed like he went off track and just said, you know what, I've had enough. What was that? Did the engine just pop for Squilliam? I think it did. One more time. Let's go on board with Squilliam. Rolling out of pit road the number 6. Listen, we're just gonna be quiet here. It almost sounds like, I think Trollman might be right on this one. It sounds like maybe Squilliam didn't refuel. I thought I saw a little bit of a puff of magic smoke coming out, but judging by the revs we were all able to hear, I don't think he blew it up. So now McAllister, with after a lap 18 pit stop, is your new race leader. Squilliam, who's the odds-on favorite, falls back to 13th after having to take a tow. What a massive upset. And we said that early in the broadcast. You think everything is locked in and we kind of know who's going to be 1, 2, 3, and it just takes a little bit of an issue. Speaking of issue, McAllister makes his way around. I believe that was Garlic Dog cutting the grass here at Phillip Island. Now this is interesting. So now it's McAllister running first, Black Bob Wallace running second, and DC, who was way down the standings after an incident, has worked his way back up into third. Out of this pack, this top 3, DC definitely has been able to click off the fastest lap so far, but man, still anybody's guess what's happening here and what's going to happen. As it looks like Wallace very slowly starting to reel in McAllister. And dropping like flies. I believe we've got 10 drivers who are showing on the lead lap here. McKinney has another off-track excursion, and it's a crash that just keeps going. Unfortunately, we're going to have to relive that one for McKinney, the number 16 machine. Pushes wide, catches the grass, and then you're just along for the ride at that point. And iRacing Sand almost does nothing at all to slow the crashes down. But it looks like McKinney will not have to take a tow, keeping it back out on track. McAllister still your race leader, 8/10 ahead of Wallace. Wallace is starting to close that gap down. Last lap by McAllister was about 6/10 slower than Wallace. And that gap, only 6/10 between the two. Now, it looks like, unfortunately, Squilliam has retired, so he will not stick around for the completion of this feature event. Not sure if that's a call I agree with how many drivers we've seen with incidents so far. And we got a report from Squilliam, unfortunately, having to disconnect due to frustrations, citing an iRacing error that the sim would not let him refuel his machine. So absolutely gut-wrenching for Squilliam. What a wild night, but here we go. Wallace closing the gap now to McAllister. What is going to be the battle for the lead? Wallace the 666, McAllister the 35. McAllister, our hard charger so far of the race, he's up 9 positions. Has yet to bring home a win here at the J2ICS Sprint Series. McAllister's highest finish in the 2 rounds he's completing was a 6th at Okayama. Also able to get a 7th at Barber. So what is McAllister going to do here with Wallace breathing down his neck? Is he going to take it easy and maybe help facilitate the pass if Wallace closes the gap? Or are we going to see the young Australian just kind of hammer down and see what sticks here? 17 laps left to go in this feature event, or 40 minutes. So he's got about 8 minutes to try and hold on. So we are not going to make it until the end, and we think at this rate McAllister should be good to go on fuel. He ran at the latest. McAllister with a bit of an off track. That's going to give an advantage to Wallace. Here we go. Wallace with a big run. Tries the outside line of McAllister. Tries to get set up for the next left-hander. Here comes Wallace taking over the race lead from the Aussie McAllister. McAllister fires back though, carrying a whole lot of momentum down the hill. McAllister to the inside line. Wallace had about a wheel. It's going to be tight as they are side by side for yet another corner. Here we go into the start-finish line straight. Both drivers still side by side. It's going to be a drag race to the finish line. Who's going to be on top as they cross the line and starts lap 24? McAllister just by a hair. And both drivers really slow down the pace. Oh, if they can keep this up for just about 6.5 more minutes, this is going to be a wild ride for the fans at home. Wallace backs out of it slightly, giving about a 4/10 advantage to McAllister. Now, we saw a pretty big bobble out of McAllister the lap prior, so we know he is giving it his all, but also going to be a little bit of lap traffic for your race leaders as well as Gareth McAllister. Black Bob Wallace starting to charge through here. I think that may be Book in the 056 just ahead. Yes, Book, well done, and a tip of the hat. Hops out of the way of the race leader, sees the blue flag, sees how close these drivers are, and talks to his crew chief and says, all right, I am out of this one. And don't count out DC as well, back in third. 2 seconds back from McAllister and Wallace. It's going to be close with 5.5 minutes left to go, but I would not count DC out of this. Really, I wouldn't count anybody inside the top 5 out of this with how wild the race has been with these mistakes we've seen from drivers. Mostly single car incidents. Wallace has a big drive using the draft off McAllister and not able to make a drafting move into turn 1. I think at this point, Wallace just needs to keep the pressure up. try and force a mistake out of McAllister. He saw it the lap prior. He knows it can be done. Oh, Wallace with a big drive there. Closed the gap down to 2/10. This is the section of the raceway. We saw McAllister and Wallace side by side for, I believe, 4 corners in a row. And an excellent display of racecraft amongst these two. I think Wallace, if I was in Wallace's shoes, I would keep the pressure on McAllister, try and force a mistake. And if that does not work, then just keep in a good drafting position. We've got less than 4 minutes left to go before the checkered flag flies. McAllister takes the start-finish line. Wallace hops out of formation, takes a peek to the inside line. McAllister defends. Oh, we're all going to be on the edge of our seats for this one if things continue. And look who has joined the party, ladies and gentlemen. DC, the number 3 machine, aptly in third. At a big moment earlier on, cost him a ton of time. And now he is set to try and battle for the race lead with less than 3 minutes left to go. He had gotten the gap down to about half second between himself and Wallace. But Wallace seems to have wicked it up slightly, still holding off about 3/10 behind McAllister. If McAllister and Wallace battle really at all for the lead, I think DC is definitely an odds-on favorite to throw himself into the mix and try and interrupt that party for the race lead. As I say that, McAllister has another off-track moment. He's going to lose a ton of time to Wallace. Here comes Wallace behind the number 35 of McAllister. Oh, it's going to be a big run from Wallace as they cross the start-finish line. Wallace is going to try and get set up for the inside line to turn 1. 2.5 minutes left to go here at Phillip Island. Wallace takes over the race lead. McAllister now in tow. DC a half second back. McAllister does not want to get tied up in the battle for second. He wants to stay in the optimal position to try and draft Wallace back at the start-finish line. This is going to be a nail-biter. Wallace and McAllister still going at it for the race lead. DC watching and stalking along from behind. 7/10 separating your top 3 drivers. 38 minutes in. Less than 2 minutes left to go here at the J2ICS Sprint Series at Phillip Island. Who's it going to be? Wallace gets a very tiny breakaway. 4/10 up over McAllister. McAllister has DC breathing down his neck. Oh, Wallace has pulled just about 6/10 here. Is McAllister going to be close enough to use the draft off of the back of the 666 machine? Or is he going to get tied up in a battle with DC? McAllister a half second back. 4/10 coming out of the start-finish line. They're going to have just about 1 lap left to go. The checker could very well come out on this lap. Oh, it is a nail-biter for sure, ladies and gentlemen. 2/10 separating Wallace and McAllister. No, now it's going to be 3/10 and 2/10 between McAllister and DC. It's anybody's guess as we've got 50 seconds left to go before the checkered flag flies here at round 6. McAllister takes a look to the outside of Wallace, not able to keep the momentum. Here comes DC, says, hey, if you're out of line, and no! DC and McAllister go around, they crash each other out. Black Bob Wallace has just been gifted a win here. And look at that, here comes Urko. He's gonna slide up into 3rd. McAllister back to 4th. The absolute carnage here at Phillip Island. McAllister, we got to get a replay queued up. We're going to wait till after the checkered flag flies and see who's going to be doing the finger pointing on this one. Wallace now a 6.5 second advantage. The checkered flag is out. And Wallace is going to bring home the win here. And let's go back to this 3-car battle for second. Who's it going to be? It's going to be DC and Urko bringing it home in second and third. And poor McAllister, the outsider looking in, is going to have to settle for fourth. Let's get this replay queued up because it is going to be a good one. We're focusing on McAllister's 35 machine. What happened between McAllister and DC? DC sees an opening, no pun intended, throws in the inside. I don't know if McAllister knew he was there. Oh no, McAllister I think got bumped from behind there. And unfortunately, just not the day he was looking for, but Black Belt Wallace is going to bring home the win. And we're going to get these top 3 drivers up here to victory lane. We've got Wallace. We're waiting on DC and Urko. To get this podium interview started. What a wild finish here. Man, I can't believe the action. We got Wallace still waiting on DC and Urko. And we've got the gang is all here. So we're going to start things off with Urko starting from pit road both races, but a podium in the feature event. I mean, just like that, that shows determination. Anybody's still in at the end of one of these things.
Well, you know what they say, man. Slow and steady gets third place after people spin out on the last lap or whatever happened there. I don't know.
Yeah, just like my
I'll take it.
Yeah, just like my grandmother used to say. But we were talking about that early in the broadcast as well. The strategy, not my grandmother, but you have to be here at the end of this thing if you want to try and get a win. And I mean, it seemed like it was a race of attrition from start to finish.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Most of the race, I was pretty much just by myself, so I really don't know what was going on. But it seemed like nobody really wanted to lead much of the race. I know something happened with Squilliam when he was in the lead, and yeah, so it seemed like a little bit of chaos up at the front.
Now
it was exciting.
Now, yeah, we know you, and you've proven you definitely have the pace, but starting from pit road, maybe a bit of a blessing in disguise, but with just a couple of short rounds left in the season, what's the plans? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, no more penalties at this point for Sonoma or Mount Panorama for you, so, I mean, a couple of gnarly tracks for you to hammer out at.
Yeah, so I made it through this one clean. It wouldn't have been so bad. I forgot to serve my qualifying ban in the last race, so I got super hosed up this one. But yeah, Sonoma I'm super excited about. And Bathurst is always going to be great, so really looking forward to both, and just hope I don't die in any more of the races.
Very well said. Well, Urko, before I let you go and celebrate with the rest of the hooligans, who do you want to give a shout out to that helped you bring home the third here tonight?
I just want to give out a shout out to my teammate DC, man. We've been together since season 3, and I've been loving seeing all his success this season. He's really putting it together, so great job, DC.
All right, very well said. Great having you up here, my friend, and best of luck in the future races.
All right, thank you, James.
Thank you, sir. That was Urko bringing it home in third. Up next, we've got DC in second, the number 3, up 2 spots, and man, there's no chance for breathing or relaxation on that one, my friend. It was non-stop carnage.
Yeah,
It was a crazy race. I just want to say sorry to G Spot. I just hit him in the rear at the end there, trying to get a little bit throttle happy, and sent him in his race. So
What?
sorry to him.
What's-
I just
Oh, you talking about Macau? I haven't heard that nickname before, so that's a new one
that's
for me.
Garrett.
Oh, bless his heart. That's a rough one, but well, you definitely hit it in that one. I mean, what happened from your point of view? It seemed like you guys were side by side. I thought there was initial contact when you went into the inside, but it seemed like it was shortly after that the incident unfolded.
Yeah, I noticed in that corner I could get them under braking. I thought I could push my nose in. I put it in. He closed the door, so I stayed as tight as I could to the curbing. And then on exit, I gave it more throttle than I guess he did, and I just hit his rear, so I spun him a little bit.
Well, hey, that was racing, but before that, you guys were side by side for laps on end. I mean, how much fun is that as a driver to have that good racing all around you, where you know you can trust the guy next to you to properly drive?
Yeah, it was definitely fun here. This is a really fun track. It's high downforce, and you just gotta make sure to like not go too crazy with the throttle on some of these corners. It just spins you right away because of the elevation changes and stuff like that. So, but it was definitely fun getting side by side with some people there. I think Paper Bag in the first race and the second race maybe that was pretty fun with him.
Well, I mean, DC, a great race all the way around, a very hard-fought second, up 2 positions. You got to feel good about it all the way around. But before we let you sign off and celebrate, who you want to give a shout-out to that helps support you here tonight?
I don't know if anyone was watching, but just a shout out to everyone in J2I.
Well, awesome. DC, a pleasure, my friend. I hope to have you back up here next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was DC bringing it home in second, but up next for the second time tonight, welcome Mr. Wallace to the top spot of the podium. Man, what a race!
That was a nail biter for sure. I was sweating and shaking at the last couple laps.
Yeah, I mean, such great racing amongst everybody in the top 5, and I think it was Urko said it very well. It seemed like nobody wanted to lead because if they did, very quickly there was incidents to follow.
Yeah, when you get close racing like that, there's not a lot of room for error. And between me and G Spot, it was inch perfect racing and awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking to that about DC as well, but I mean, that's probably one of the best parts about league racing is you get to race the same guys each and every week and kind of figure out who you can push, who you need to give extra space to. But, I mean, there was all of you guys, anybody in the top 5 at that point tonight, I felt like had a chance of bringing home a win.
Absolutely. And I think Urko inched in P3 there at the end. What I was told was they were side by side at the finish. So if the incident didn't happen, I think all 4 of us would have been right there.
Well, I would agree with you guys. And tell me, Black Bob, how effective is the draft here, Phillip Bob? Because it seemed like it was very tough for anybody to break away if you had a drafting partner to try and reel in the guy in front of you if you're not side by side.
So the draft is good to stay with somebody. It's not as good to pass. I think you run out of RPM before you get to the straightaway. So it's and then you got dirty air to deal with as well. So it's good, but not great.
Well, hey, it seemed like it still led to some really great racing all the way. I know you're pumped. 2 podiums. Most importantly, the top spot of the night. And Black Bob Wallace, you've got the privilege, the pleasure, the final send-offs of the evening. Who do you want to give a shout to that made you bring home the win here this evening?
Again, huge thanks to the ZFG team, Bro Sidon out there. Huge thanks to you for putting it on, and Urko and the J2I guys. Like this is a lot of fun to be a part of. So huge thank, and the audience as well. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Awesome, man. Good having you back up here, and hope to have you back up here next week.
Appreciate it.
And that was Bob Wallace bringing home the top spot in the feature event. DC finishing second, and Urko will round out the top 3. On behalf of the J2ICS.com Just Two Idiots Cup Series, my name's been James East with Team Goon Squad Broadcasting. Thank you all so much for tuning in, supporting the league, supporting the drivers, supporting the broadcast. And I look forward to having you back same time, same place next week. Have a great night, everybody.